That's fine. So, here we are. Thank you all for joining in. It's an opportunity to just get some quick information on my culture, our culture, or the hidden culture, the hidden gem of the world. For our early morning viewers, we'd like to thank you all for stopping in and hollering at us for a few minutes. But let's just check out some more science. It's very brief and very interesting history. But enough of me. Let's let Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay, the brother Sheik here, present more science from his perspective. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Most places were emphasizing this idea of you are Christian. And the imagery that was conveyed was, again, as I like to say, Jesus of Norway, not Jesus of Nazareth. So that the imagery that most of us were getting in most churches were still giving us an image of God as a European man. Right? So where are we getting any real historical truth about ourselves? Where are we getting any real in-depth spiritual understanding? There were the lodges, the Masonic lodges, right? People might mention like the Prince Hall lodges, because that's where most quote-unquote Negroes or colored people who were men would go. So there was some of that there, and people would say, well, yeah, that's where he got it from, right? What is conveyed in the teachings of Moorish science as laid out in the literature, the Moorish Quran, the Moorish literature, which is a compilation of different writings, the Quran questions for children, or 101, the divine constitution and bylaws, are all conveying to people the breadth of how the prophet, how Nubuddha Ali was then conveying this information, right? Because you could say, it's broad. Science is just a reference to knowledge, right? What's the means to, how do you frame your knowledge? Our knowledge is framed within a Moorish perspective. That's why Christian science, because, it's a branch of Christianity. Our knowledge is conveyed through that of a Christian perspective as defined by those who founded that organization, right? So, basically, this was an organization which, just to continue, allowed African Americans information about ourselves minus the negative distortions which predominated outside of the temple. Most people thought of Africa as the land of inferior humans, if that, because their concept was based upon all the negative images that a very good documentary to look at, ethnic notions that came out in the late 1980s, which talks about how African peoples were displayed in savage and animalistic and servile ways in plays, in movies, in cartoons, in music, in games. You had games put out by Parker Brothers called 10 Little Niggers. And you had toys for children like Bobo, the tree-climbing nigger, that were being sent all over the world. So you had consumer goods being used to convey incredibly anti-African imagery, right? And the minstrel shows that were the highest form of entertainment back then. All this is largely what people would have been exposed to, right? And all of a sudden, this Moorish science temple comes along that conveys a whole nother understanding of identity, raises the issue of being Moors, knowing that the historical literature within the Western world talked fabulously about the Moors and the contribution of the Moors to Western civilization, right? And Joseph McCabe, who I mentioned, as well, one of the historians writing in the 20s, who talks about the brilliance and the contributions of the Moors. So this organization was affording an insight into our history that went way beyond anything that existed at the time.
Wow.
Anything that existed.
Wow.
And so, to continue, it also represents a Marabut order. Because then if you study the Moorish history, you come across the Marabuts, which is an African Islamic an African interpretation of the religion of Islam. It follows the basic elements of Islamic cosmology, is community-oriented, meaning your focus is really on trying to deal with your own immediate community. Meaning we're here in the United States, so we have to deal with the conditions that African peoples or Asiatics are faced with in the United States. It's not going to be the same experience as those who are living in an Arabic-speaking Islamic country, or even a Turkish-speaking Islamic country, or even a Farsi-speaking Islamic country. There has to be some recognition of dealing with the more provincial interests that are there. And it draws its guides and venerated ancestors from its own immediate environment. Consequently, when from a Moorish perspective, we'll say that, or the Prophet said, Noble Drew Ali said, that Marcus Garvey was the forerunner. Marcus Garvey responsible for an international movement which was meant to raise consciousness.
Facts.
Right? In ways that frightened the establishment. And so just to kind of offer a clarification or addendum, when I said there was no place for people to go, the only exception for folks to get some insight close to this level was the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, as it was originally called when Marcus Garvey established it. And the best way of saying this is he was trying to create more, if you will, Negro-centric Negroes, right? But we're still locked into this word Negro. We're still trapped by the term given to African peoples by Europeans who are seeking to objectify us. So I don't care to know your nationality. Don't tell me I don't need to know your nationality. You're just a Negro. You're just a black.
Wow.
But the organization was still highly successful in being able to convey a historical past that was more favorable and illustrious, so that the venue, what was it called? The Negro World, which was the venue. It was a magazine for the UNIA. That would be sent all over the world. There'd be articles about African history. There'd be articles about what was happening with efforts towards independence or acquiring greater rights under colonial powers. There were discussions of ancient Abyssinia or Ethiopia. In that. I dare say there was probably, and I don't know because I don't know everything that was in the Negro world, I dare say there were discussions about African Muslims, the Moors, and their contributions to Western or European civilization.
Okay. We'll pause it there real quick to get let's get another angle at it, right? So he giving you historical facts and history on the Moors. on our ancestors, our ancient ancestors, and their contributions, which is already known. Hold on, let me get y'all back up here. Which is really already known. The whole world knows it. This is the operations that they operate off of, the template that we handed down. So we gotta, without the knowledge of it, we can't tap in. So this is just about gaining a greater insight, getting knowledge and education, and nurturing our comprehension as it relates to learning more about yourself. So this is about know thyself. This is the point, or the main ideal of today, just to get some information from different perspectives in a comprehensive form. You know what I'm saying? So the common folks can understand just a little bit more about themselves. And so we got about at least a few more minutes of just raw material. And let's just get into it. Let's see where we get. Let's see what we get out of this bag right here. Hold on.
They know this right, sir. They swore oath on this. They took an oath on this. Yeah, they took an oath on this.
This joke crazy.
No, they swore oath on this, baby. No, they know. Y'all gonna know today.
You gonna know today, right?
Y'all fictitious fake. That's what the U.S. citizen they fake. Fictitious. Fake fictitious. That's what y'all want. Y'all got no jurisdiction over us.
Yeah, fuck you.
Sir, they ain't got no jurisdiction. This is our flag. You ain't allowed to know. They can't stop me from doing nothing. They get ready to get sued. Get out of here. Get your supervisor. Think you is. All this. I ain't under none of y'all's jurisdiction. Fuck out of here.
This is pretty much the reason why they don't teach you nationality. When I'm talking about they, the establishments, the institutions, they don't teach you the history.
PA.
And it's for this very purpose, you know.
Man, throw a flag out this door, though.
See, they can't play the color game here. They can't say, oh, black male, he has his flag, he has his nationality, he's declaring it for the record, he's in compliance with the treaty law, the law of the land, the constitutional law of the land.
See, this is what you need to know.
So they can't play the color game. They can't say black man
Ladies,
to rob him of his rights. They want to,
stuff you need to know.
but they can't.
They got no jurisdiction over us. None.
Jurisdiction means power.
They ain't got the status. This ain't their land. This is my land.
See?
This is my land. I'm a
He's
Moor.
claiming the soil.
I'm allowed to travel this land. They swore an oath to this. This is the oath they swore on. They all know it. Need no license. You're not under y'all's George. I'm not under contract
See?
with y'all.
We need a license for it on his own land.
I was just downtown with this thing.
So it's all about nationality. It's about proclaiming your nationality and correcting your status for the record.
You see, I ain't touching.
The treatment's changed.
You see that, right?
You don't get the Negro or the color treatment.
Timbuktu.
They want to be the Jews.
If they deprive a Moorish American, that's a violation. That's a criminal
Well, you know what this means?
violation, international violation.
Oh my goodness.
So this is why you don't hear people talking about nationality, Noble Drew Ali, the prophet. They don't discuss that because they try to keep that a secret. Because this is the effects, this is the impact of it. So they can't play the black game. They can't pull him out the car. They can't pull out guns. And actually, they're not supposed to have all those police cars according to our treaty agreement. According to the treaty agreement, they ain't supposed to have 2 to 3 men.
That's why the women love us. Love us.
He heard.
No. That ain't giving you shit. They ain't gonna do a fucking thing. Motherfuckers ain't gonna do shit. They ain't gonna do a motherfucking thing. Fuck out of here.
Beware of the content. It's a little aggressive.
Man, we got backed up traffic out this bitch. Motherfucker, Pittsburgh PD. Pittsburgh police out this bitch. like, this shit ain't no joke, dog.
See, they got
My man threw the flag out the fucking well. Fuck you. This shit funny as hell. Yeah, I'm going all this. This shit right here is like, whoa. Like, rob about this bitch. Yeah. Motherfucker get educated today. Because they ain't touched that man. You see that? They ain't touched him. Ain't pulled a pistol or nothing.
See, he dropping science, man. When he dropped the flag, they had to bag up. As soon as he said, I'm Moorish American, I'm a Moor, everything changed. Because that's the law. See, you talking about the peace treaty.
Man done pulled out all the laws.
See?
Oh my God.
This is the law of the land. They can't do nothing. They mad everybody seeing this too. That's really the problem. He got 100,000 witnesses at the same time. That's why that's why the world want to keep you black.
They ain't even playing with him. Like, you see the flag?
That's why they want to keep you black. That's why they'll never show you this. They'll never give you this degree.
Oh, I know it.
This is how we fill up the jail cells.
Think I don't
Because
know?
we don't know our nationalities before the jail cell. We ain't taught the law.
He said, I ain't signing this shit. I ain't signing nothing. I'm not signing nothing. Jurisdiction, none.
Jurisdiction means power for the viewer.
Exactly.
So when he said you don't got jurisdiction over me, he's saying you don't got power over me. I'm on my land.
They don't even know what the fuck to say. Like, these motherfuckers is lost. They don't even know what to say, dog.
Now they want to force him to contract.
Fictitious. I guess I'll fuck. Oh my God. Dude is killing me. Oh, you ain't know about this? Oh,
You listening? He says civil rights is for them.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah, you tripping.
Hold on, let me bring it back. I was talking.
Dude is killing me. Oh, you ain't know about this? Oh, you tripping. Yeah. Yeah, you tripping. It's real shit.
See?
This ain't no bullshit. Oh. Hey, so what, buddy? I was getting the flag. He ain't gonna do nothing to me. That man ain't gonna do nothing to me.
You see how they play the people that they feel like is black?
He ain't gonna do something to me.
They pressed up on the people they feel like is black.
Hey.
And all that black means is that you don't have a nationality. White means that you have a nationality. So it's not dealing with complexion, it's dealing with status.
Bye-bye, Pittsburgh.
Alright, so I just wanted to give y'all a visual of what it looked like in actual activity. Okay, wait. Let's see here. And so there you have it. Just one, like I said, man, I appreciate y'all stopping in this morning. I at least wanted to catch y'all while y'all minds was fresh. And everything else ain't had a chance to kind of dive in y'all minds for a second. So appreciate y'all letting us inside to insert some positive, constructive, divine information, affirmation that you can use right away. You're able to take the knowledge and activate it the moment that you understand who you are. And that's simple. The information is here. The knowledge is here. You can always tap in my inbox there and reach out. I'll reach back. Each one got to teach one. And in fact, in our Moorish Quran, like the brother was talking about, which is the Holy Quran, Circle 7, it talks about sharing knowledge that makes us better. And it talks about communicating to the wise for their improvement. And so all you wise persons out there, today we had the opportunity to communicate some powerful information that can make, your conditions better, whatever those conditions may be. It just makes it better. It relieves a lot of stress, takes a lot of unnecessary pressure away because you get rid of the fictitious, all of it. All of it is, most of it, 99% of it is misinformation. It's not true. And it's to distract you, deprive you, to derail you, to deter you, to discourage you, and to just withhold from you the knowledge of the truth of your birthright, which arises from the fact that you have a nationality. You are a descendant of the original people, or as they would say, the indigenous people of the land, of the continent. And we've been robbed of that information, but praise Allah, or as they would say, thank the Almighty. All praise is due to the Most High that He sent the Prophet, Noble Jew Ali, to us here at North America to establish the Moorish Divine and National Movement to insert or dispense the education, developing the technology to dispense this education of our history, our culture, our principles, our contributions to humanity and civilization, our relationship to the families of nations, and the obligations of civilizations to the first seeds. And so that's important because, for centuries now, without the education, we've been seeing, the things that we've been seeing, the same images that's being promoted today, us being under occupation is the proper term, under occupation, usurped your birthrights because you simply don't know that they exist. So black, for the record, black and white is not talking about complexion. It's not talking about the shades or tones of your skin, but they're talking about a legal or lawful status. So an immigrant or a refugee would be considered to be black, meaning a person that's stateless, individual with no nationality. You're talking about privileges and citizenships. White is referring to a person that has a nationality, period. I'm a descendant of Moroccans and born in America, so automatically I'm dealing with my descent. So I'm an American by descent, and not through oath of office, not through an oath, a pledge, a commitment. They have you pledge of allegiance to the flag. That's how people become citizens or United States citizens. So we're not dealing with the citizenship by way of commitment, by way of we do have a commitment to our ancestors, which is to honor thy father and thy mother, that their days may be lengthened on the earth land which the Lord thy God hath given thee. So we're still dealing with that principle of inheritance, that birthright to your inheritance, your ancestral estate. That's for the most part, we're focusing in on North, South, Central Americas, Mexico, the Atlantic Islands, Northeast, Southwest Africa, going all the way up into Asia, consuming Egypt, the Holy Lands of the Holy City of Mecca, all of that area, region, what is referred to as the Middle East, is really our land estate, our inheritance, our vast estate. And so without the knowledge being dispensed, you can't get access. You can't tap into the wealth and the wealth of your ancestors, your inheritance. In fact, from the education that we receive, we don't even think on the level of being heirs. We don't even use words like estates, inheritance, understanding trust law and trust and how all that stuff relates to us. It relates to us on a whole divine level. We have a divine covenant, and to remove the fictitious status of being black, Negro, and colored, of people with no nationality, no divine creed, etc. So all that was removed when the prophet came to us with this affirmation to develop this understanding, to develop this good moral character. It's a term they use called resocialization. So the prophet was a sociologist to a degree. He came in to re-socialize the people. It was a big reform. Be honest with you, it was a big reform of the mind by instituting the right knowledge, and that right knowledge developed right actions, and that right actions developed, this consciousness, this rise in consciousness, what we call the Moorish divine and national movement. And so that's important. History and literature, it deals with the development of our self-esteem, of our higher self, being tapped in, because based on involuntary servitude and being deprived to practice our culture, to read our books, our ancient scrolls, to being able to tap into our native languages, being able to really know our real true wealth, all we can do is thank the heavens for sending us the prophet. Because without the prophet coming, we didn't have the information like the brother just talked about. The 1940s is when the United Nations, the families of nations, came together and basically said, hey, look, proclaim your nationality. Everybody has a right to a nationality. No one shall be deprived of his or her nationality or the right to change their nationality. They put it in every document that's published by the United Nations, because they can't even convene without nationality being the law and order and subject matter, because you represent nations. So what nation are you from? Put that on the record. I'm from New Zealand. I'm from this. I'm from that. Well, I'm from North America. I'm Moorish American. That's our home. That's our land. That's our empire. That's not me, just giving you some opinion, but here's the historical data that comes out of the National Archive.gov, and so we got, documentation that's preserved and reserved, and governmental records. It has to be preserved because it's the history. It's the founding. It's the founding of the United States government, one of the most prosperous governments ever formed, ever put together. Thinking about how it started off all the way from the Declaration of Independence, thus backwards, and the pressure that Great Britain was putting on the 13 colonies or the 13 United States, and all of those events dealing with the wars between the two parties, the Moors and the Christians. That's what this document focuses on really highlighting the relationship between the two parties and the agreement to end, the war and to become one. It's really a marriage document. And, like I say, this the document the brother was just on here holding up, and they have to respect it. They have no other choice because their office is only validated by way of constitutional law. So without the Constitution, they outlaws. They're not even supposed to have a uniform and a badge on. So the office is authorized by way of Moorish law. And so actually, and that's what Nick Cannon was talking about. Nick Cannon was talking about how he into the science, dealing with history that reflects him in his kingship status, his God status. And my point of saying that was dealing with Moors are actually the majesties of America, as you can see right up top. Hold on. Right? So when they have to deal with me, they have to address me as such, as your majesties. We're the majesties of America. America's, and you don't have to believe me, you can just go and pull it up. What's called America today is the Moorish Empire. And that's what this treaty is dealing with. And that's what the brother was just holding up with the Pittsburgh law enforcement agency, the alleged one, right? And they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't even because they had to look what it said at the top: to whom all persons to whom these presents shall come or be made known. And dealing with the science, he executed Article 4 here, where it say a sign. In Article 4, it say a signal or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties, by which they shall be known when they meet at sea. So if the commander of a ship of war of either party shall have other ships under his convoy, the declaration of the commander shall alone be sufficient to exempt any of them from examination. This is the reason why they couldn't. This is the reason why they couldn't get in the car. They couldn't take him out the car, because once he gave his sign and signal, which was to throw his flag out, right? That's a sign. That's why you see flags up everywhere. His car or his vehicle becomes a vessel. The engagement, because of the license plate or whatever, it's alleged that he's operating in commerce, which is regulated with the law of the sea, or what they call admiralty or maritime law. So the first thing he did to regulate the law of commerce, or to be in compliance with admiralty, was he raised a treaty up that dictates that. The treaty that's Moorish law, that's dealing with Moorish dominions. And as you can see in the bottom paragraph here, right, it's dealing with some historical data. It tells you that, you know, it tells you right here, George Watson tells you the encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, right? So you got to understand that North, South, Central Americas, the Americas, etc., is the Moorish Empire. And so the Moorish descendants would be heirs to the empire. Now you have to identify where your empire, where that jurisdiction lies, that dominion extend from. So that's what's super dope about learning your history. That's the dope part about learning your history. It builds that confidence because you're dealing with the principles of truth. And then you start to, from that truth, you start to develop love, an even greater love for yourself, and an even greater spiritual connection to your higher self, or to your God. And so you finally get to tap into what they call true religion, because the religion that's been given over the centuries is dealing with fictitious principles, like the brother was talking about earlier, giving you images of, you know, of people that's not of your bloodline, so to speak, or your nationality. They're giving you images. Islam, good brother. And so, not to go too deep into the religious section, even though all of it is religion, right? And I know y'all probably like, well, give me a second to qualify myself when I say that, so I can give you more of an insight of what's going on here. But really, like I was saying, all of it is really religion. And so let me see if I can find one for you. So you can see, basically, and so this is another reason here. There's another reason here in Article 7. All right, that's 6. I'm sorry. It say, if any more shall bring citizens of the United States or their effects to His Majesty, the citizens shall immediately be set at liberty. That's what you heard the brother talking about on the last video here. And it said, and the effects restored. And in like manner, if any more not a subject of the dominion shall make prize of any of the citizens of America or their effects, and bring them into any other ports of His Majesty, they shall be immediately released, as they will then be considered under His Majesty's protection. So I'm just trying to give you a greater insight on the lawful perspective, because here's what you need to know. Law and history goes together. You can't know law without history, and you don't know history. Well, you can't know law without history, period. Because the history is what shapes and makes and bring forth the law. And so, in this history that we present to you and the law, we're giving you the law. And so that's why they couldn't deal with my man in the last video, basically. Because he is Your Majesty. He's at the crib he's an heir to the empire. And so being an heir to the empire, he's protected internationally. So you can't even arrest this guy. You can't arrest this guy. You can't pull him out his car. You can't search his vehicle. You can't do any of that. Why? It's not black, Negro, and color. It's not. You don't have jurisdiction. It's not. He's not Christian property. We did we have an arrangement with the Christian nations and the Christian powers of Europe, and we formed a republic, United States, to regulate that arrangement, to grant freedoms and parcels, so that the 13 colonies can come into the fold of government, and that's why they had. And that's why the Declaration of Independence is there, the Articles of Association, the Articles of Confederation, the treaties, the series of treaties, and they even hid that under the Barbary treaties, using terms like Barbary to cover up and allege that some other people did this, and they didn't. And so it's all an attempt to conceal, at the end of the day, our history, our true history, our nationality, the truth of our nationality, the truth of our birthright, the truth of our divine creed, and the ongoing extermination of indigenous peoples all over the planet. So we got to understand that so we can understand the politics of today. So being indigenous to the planet, and that's documented. That's once again documented. World history, us being indigenous to the planet, and being the most oppressed. So I can't take no more of y'all time up. I actually got to go. It's now more into the 8:01. But I just wanted to catch y'all early enough, make sure y'all was fresh enough to receive some positive information about yourself, coming from some different sources, not just from the ill, but you have an opportunity to hear some different perspective on it. And we'll continue to provide, just brief information, valuable information, and information that you can use right then and there at that moment. With that being said, don't be afraid to be you. Being you is being great. So don't focus on becoming great. Continue to build yourself so you can continue to be you, which is great. And so with that being said, peace and love.